Cheap and widely available steroid drug is hailed as a major breakthrough in the treatment of patients seriously ill with COVID-19. We return to Wuhan, the Chinese city where the pandemic started, to see what lessons have been learned there.
China is determined that this place will not be remembered for a cover-up that put global health at risk, but rather as the cornerstone of a great national victory.
After the protests, an executive order on police reforms from President Trump as he bans chokeholds unless an officer's life is at risk. Victory for the footballer Marcus Rashford, whose campaign to extend free school meals in England this summer has prompted a major government U-turn. And the English Premier League makes a return on Wednesday, but what will it be like without the fans? Indian officials say at least 20 soldiers have been killed in clashes with Chinese forces in the disputed Kashmir region. China didn't confirm any casualties but accused India of crossing the border. It's the first deadly clash in the border area in at least 45 years. The violence follows weeks of escalating tensions, with both sides deploying thousands of extra troops. The head of the US Central Bank has warned that the path to economic recovery remains uncertain due to the coronavirus pandemic. Jerome Powell, J. Powell, said low-income households had seen the sharpest rise in unemployment. His comments came as US retail spending figures showed a record monthly increase, nearly 18% in May as shoppers returned to stores, but that's 6% down year on year. The British government has announced plans to merge the Department for International Development, DFID, with the Foreign Office, the FCO. Boris Johnson says the shake-up will create a super department which will project UK values, interests overseas. But three of his predecessors, Tony Blair, Gordon Brown and David Cameron, have all criticised the move.
The Trump administration takes legal action to prevent the publication of a memoir by the president's former national security advisor, John Bolton.
North Korea has announced it will redeploy military troops to inter-Korea tourist and economic sites near its border with the South. It comes after the North blew up a joint liaison office designed to maintain relations between the two states. The North's General Staff said its military units will be deployed at the sites of the Diamond Tourism Project and the Kaesong Industrial Complex. Both of those are just north of the heavily fortified border. North Korea has threatened action if defectors continue to send propaganda leaflets, usually by balloon, across the border back into the north, which it says violates peace agreements. New Zealand is investigating a case in which two women who flew in from London to see a dying parent were allowed to leave quarantine and drive halfway across the country before they were tested for COVID-19 and found to be positive. New Zealand declared itself COVID-free for 3 weeks, and these latest cases have raised concern that international air travel could trigger a fresh wave of contagion as countries around the world are reopening airports to try and stimulate tourism.
Sleepwalking into a cashless society. As a new scheme launches, we'll hear the concerns of the woman in charge of making access to cash easier for the 8 million people who say they need to get money in the palm of their hands.
What's on the front pages? I can hear you ask. Well, it's this. The Metro celebrating what it calls an extra time U-turn for Marcus Rashford after the government said it would now provide new school meal vouchers for children in England during the summer break.
Back of the net, same story, declares the Daily Mirror as it celebrates both victory for Marcus Rashford's campaign and the return of Premier League football. Jane Dougal is looking at that for us today. She's live at Manchester City Stadium.
Back page of the Times is leading with another campaign by a high-profile footballer. Manchester City's Raheem Sterling is calling for the government to ensure there's more black representation on the boards of the sports governing bodies, including the FA. A breakthrough drug, which has been proven to help the most severely affected coronavirus patients, is being dispensed in hospitals across the UK. The steroid, called dexamethasone, is cheap, widely available and has been used in Britain since the 1960s. Research led by Oxford University found that it cuts the risk of death by a third for patients on ventilators in hospitals.
More than 1,000 flights in and out of Beijing have been cancelled by Chinese officials as they try to contain a fresh outbreak of coronavirus in the city. Schools have been ordered to close and residents have been urged not to leave the capital, which had previously gone 50 days without any local transmission of COVID-19. These latest cases are linked to a wholesale food market.